Hello, my name is Max James Walker and welcome back to Season 2 of Beyond the Reel. And our guest for this episode is the guy that you want to speak to when you get your film distributed and actually seen by audiences. So can we have a nice warm welcome for our next guest, Theo Borzsony. Thanks for being here. For anyone who hasn't met you and doesn't know who you are, do you want to give yourself a little introduction and tell us about yourself?
So I'm Theo. I'm on the same year as Max, part of a team called Studio3, and I've also been the first AD most recently on a third-year film. So it's called In Another Time. It's written and directed by Harry Jenkins. It was really, really fun to make. It was all set in sort of 1940s France, and we built the whole set ourselves. That was Emily Lunson, and the two guys are in this hostel together, and that's where they meet. Like, they fall in love a little bit. What they realise on the way is that both of them are only actually connected by the room. They can't be together outside the room. One's from 1940s France, and the other one is from where we are now, 2024. So it's a bit of like a time room. It's quite interesting.
An interesting way for two people and two characters to meet. Obviously, like all big projects, they all need an assistant director. I don't know about anybody else here, but coming into film school and coming into uni, I didn't really know what an assistant director was or what the role was, and I know for some people they think that it can mean director's assistant, which isn't the case. So for people that don't know, do you want to tell us a little bit about what it is to be an AD and what that sort of role entails?
It sounds quite boring. It's like the sort of more boring stuff of scheduling and safety and all that. But I think really what it comes down to is making the set more professional. So I think in first year there wasn't really that kind of like, they weren't really introducing roles like that. No, but I think when it comes to third year and second years, I think it's a really, really important role to have because it keeps the cogs moving a little bit.
Absolutely. I think I've been on sets where we've either not had an AD or we've not had a very good AD. And it's so important for timekeeping because it's so easy to just go, let's do another take. Let's do another take. Let's do one more. And
first year.
you need someone on your back to be telling you, no, we don't have time. We need to keep moving on. The AD is basically the person in charge of the set at the end of the day, aren't they? So they sort of tell everybody where they need to be and what needs to be done. And we've only got an hour left. We need to do this. So you're the one that sort of gets to boss people around and keep everyone in order. So how did you come on to becoming an AD? Like, what was your sort of experience through uni that led you to doing this for your final project?
When I was in second year, I was first AD before, and I think towards the end of the experience, I just said to myself, I'm not doing that again. And in third year, I approached Harry about working on a film. And I think there was one spot left, and that was first AD, but I really wanted to work with Harry. So then I had a bit of a think about it, and I think I just ended up picking that one in the end. I decided to work with him. I thought, you know, I've had a bit of experience, so why not try it again? Yeah,
and you did something really interesting, which I haven't really spoken to many other people or any other people in our year that sort of did what you did, but you actually reached out to an AD to get some advice.
I did, yeah. It was Simon Ajwari, so he worked on a Black Mirror episode and also a Marvel series. Have you ever seen Hang the DJ? That episode?
Absolutely brilliant. If anyone's not watched it, Hang the DJ, Black Mirror, brilliant episode.
So that episode is why I reached out to him, because it was an episode about, it was a romance, and of course ours was a romance. It's between two guys in this hostel, and I think there were similar themes. So,
yeah, definitely thematically similar people trapped.
Yeah, they're trapped,
somewhere together,
but they couldn't really be together. And both Hang the DJ, because there was a bit of like the constraints with making sure
the algorithm of the dating thing.
Yeah. And then they wanted to be together, but then these guys couldn't be together because if they went outside the room, then obviously they get split apart.
Yeah.
So I spoke to him, and he gave me an awful lot of good advice. We were considering doing like sort of like intimacy scenes and things that are quite difficult, like subject matter that's quite difficult to handle, as well as just general tips. And he was really, really helpful for that. So I'm very grateful.
In my own experience, everyone's always been so welcoming to give advice, and so it's been so useful. And it's even just like little tips and things that stick with you. That's the importance of reaching out and networking and asking those sort of questions, because whilst you can sort of figure them out yourselves, these people they've already done it, and you don't have to make the same mistakes they did. And more often than not, people want to help and want you to do well. And it's great that you've done that, because like I said, I don't really know anybody else that's reached out to someone that, especially doing an episode of Black Mirror, like that's massive. And
it is quite big, yeah.
With this project, obviously with any project, approaching it as an assistant director, there's always its own unique challenges. What was it with this project that you felt you had to approach it in a specific way to overcome those challenges?
At the beginning, we were actually planning on filming a bit in France, which was quite tough. And then we did eventually settle with just keeping it in one room, finding that room and just filming in it and keeping it all there, until eventually we decided we'd just build the whole set, which was definitely quite a daunting task, because I think we had a lot of nightmares building it. We were thinking, what if we just get there after we've built it and it's just fallen down? That's just, the whole thing's gone. But it's definitely very, very relieving to have built it. A lot of it was riding on the fact that we could stay in one location.
Yeah.
We had 3 days to film it. That's one of the days we had to rebuild the entire set and turn it into a corridor. It was a challenge trying to keep that, condense that, and make sure we were running really, really efficiently.
Yeah, and especially for an AD, like time is, that's what your focus is. So I can imagine you definitely felt the stress of it.
Yeah, definitely going into it. I think once we were on, by the end of day one, that was a completely different, I think that was a completely different thing, because we were very, very much more comfortable after that. But going into it, it was very stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine you've got this time constraint, because you could only be in the building to a certain time as well.
I think 6 o'clock.
Yeah, which isn't super late really. So you're very aware that you've got to be on it. But I suppose, like you said, you have the ease of it that you don't have to change the locations. You're in one spot, and especially for this film as well, you only had a cast of 2. So it's not like on bigger sets where if you've got a lot of extras, that's when your second ADs come into place and your third ADs and the people to sort of coordinate that. In terms of working with the director, what was it like for this project that he wanted and you had to approach and sort of get him?
Yeah, so that was actually an interesting part of the essay that they got us to write about. So what I wanted to tackle making the film, my objective going into it was trying to make sure that we got all the emotion that we wanted to try and sell that romance that we were going for between the two. I think it mainly for me, it wasn't the scheduling. It was more sort of the keeping the tone of the set, staying professional. I gave everyone like this ethics form to sign in, which it wasn't a threatening one. No, I didn't want it to be threatening. I just wanted everyone to feel comfortable there. But I made sure that everyone knew of the safety, of the things we were going to do. And I think everyone treated the film how we wanted it to treat it, and not. It was fun, but we weren't messing about.
Yeah, you had that professional setting there, and everybody felt that. And to go away from ADing and that as well, you also, like you briefly mentioned, you have Studio3, which is an amazing company that you and your friends have started. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that and what it is that you do there?
Yeah, so Studio3 started in, I think I got this right, 2021. So I had nothing to do with it then. It was someone called Tom Bill started it in college, and he put all of his films onto it, just putting them on, just like his college films and stuff like that. He just sort of dumped them on, and then once he got to uni, got a group of friends and said, let's just put our films on there. Since then, it's turned into more of a distribution, so we don't really make the films ourselves anymore. We take on other people's films, make sure that there's a place for their films to go. And I'm sure you can agree sometimes after a film finishes its festival run, it gets some really, really good attention, but it's almost like it sort of just loses its lifespan.
It goes after that,
and we kind of give it that second wind. So we just try to give it the views and the audience that we think it deserves.
Yeah, get it, because that's something that I've definitely struggled with when I've had films and festivals is you have a great one run, people watch it, people like it, and then that's it. You can upload it to YouTube or Vimeo or wherever, and then it just... Sometimes you're lucky to get 100 views.
Sometimes you can be lucky. I mean, some people do get really, really good views, and we're very, very happy for films that do that. And sometimes people do their own marketing schemes, and it does work. So we're very, very happy to say, look at films that do that, and we congratulate those sorts of films. But I think sometimes people don't want to put that kind of... The people aren't prepared to put that kind of effort in.
Or it's almost forgotten about a little bit, I think, especially at this stage now as students. You're so focused on the production side of things and making the film and making a good film, which is obviously all very important. But then people need to watch it. The whole point of a film is to have an audience and to get it out there.
Exactly, yeah.
And people often forget about it until it's too late, and they're like, oh, we've not got the marketing, we've not got the distribution for it, because festivals can only get it so far. And that's where you come in.
Yeah, so we're just there to do what people sometimes just either can't be bothered to do or just don't know how to.
What sort of advice would you give to someone who, so they've made a film, they're sending it out to festivals, they're trying to get it there. In my own experience in submitting to festivals, it can be very daunting.
I think sometimes take it to Instagram, just try and have a bit of fun making film posters. You said you've tried making film posters yourself.
It's something that I've done since school because I did graphics and photography, and just the project pieces were just make a film poster for your favourite film. And
so this is a nice transferable skill. I mean, if there's lots of different parts to the marketing stage, and I mean, you've just got to find something that you enjoy doing in terms of that, because there's a lot to it. There's a lot of, you got to make posters, you got to make trailers. Maybe you might, if you enjoy editing, maybe you'll enjoy editing the trailers and all that sort of stuff. A lot of it is also just like waiting for the timings and stuff like that. You got to say, oh, we're going to release it at 2 o'clock and this day, and then the algorithm, you know, like judging the algorithm and stuff like that is really, really complex. And you can just try it on YouTube. There's certain titles you can for the algorithm to sort of snatch it up, because I think sometimes you could put just the film title, but that might not be enough. You've got to put what it's won, what the awards you've gotten for it, maybe give the film a whole new title, and something that might be kind of like an eye-catching one, you know, the sort of ones that lots of people might just like click on.
I mean, it's weird actually you say that, because I remember for my first term, second year film, we didn't enter it into any festivals, which I can't remember why, but the editor just, on a whim, just uploaded it to YouTube, and we just forgot about it there, and then it ended up getting 25,000 views.
It's surprising, isn't it?
Just randomly, and we did no promo, no marketing, nothing. And then for some of the films that have done all the promo and the marketing, it's just been nowhere near that. So it really, it can just be luck sometimes.
Most of the time it is luck. I'd say that's definitely true. What we try to aim for with Studio 3 is a bit more consistency. So that's where we try and come in, because I think sometimes it's very, very difficult to have that reassurance and belief that it is going to do well. Sometimes we'll take on a film, and I think because we've already got a little bit of a foundation, it might perform a little bit better.
I know that your most recent film that you've had with Studio 3, anyone who is a student here or like sort of follows anything to do with the uni film production account will have most likely seen it. Even people that I was talking to today saying about you coming on had seen. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the most recent film that you've distributed, Studio 3?
Cherry Blossoms in March is the latest film. It's a film from Canada, and we first came across it when it was at a Indie Flicks Festival, so that's one in Manchester. It's quite a local one. And it was Ryan and Tom, who I work with at Studio 3. They were there. This is before I joined, and they saw it and they thought, let's just reach out to the person that made it, Riley Rayhan. The film is based on a true story and a poem written by her sister, who sadly lost a battle with cystic fibrosis. She's connected that to herself to charities, and we've tried to help raise some money for her herself. It's quite a sad film as well. I definitely recommend checking it out.
Yeah, I mean, even myself, like I've seen what you've been doing and the advertising. It's just been out there, so it's worked. It definitely works.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Yeah, I'm glad it has.
It's great to sort of have that sort of mindset, because I spoke to you earlier about it, is there are people in our year group, myself included, with some friends, about starting production companies and being focused on getting films made and what, you know, like we're here doing this show and things like that. But I don't know anybody else, I don't know if anyone knows anyone else that's actually started a distribution company. It's not really something that I've heard of anyone else doing.
That's the interesting part as well, is we try and sort of follow a little bit of A24. I'm sure you've heard of them. They actually, I think, I can't remember what year it is. I'm going to say around 2013, they may have started as a distribution company, I believe. And that's kind of how they are now, and they've started to produce, they've started to produce films. So
I mean, everybody wants a film by them now. That's the dream, isn't it? To have an A24
Yeah, exactly.
film.
I know. I mean, that's like I'd always go and see the film by A24. Like, you've got to watch it.
You know it's going to be a good film if it's by them,
Yeah. So maybe I think that's kind of the direction. I think people want to start with production, but the problem is it's so difficult to get a good budget and get all the things, getting all the stars to align to actually make a film. So I think really distribution and starting that way is a little bit easier, because I think the film's already made, the film already exists. It's up to just the marketing side.
And it's so different now, living in the age of the internet that we're at, where it is so accessible to be able to distribute, especially with social media and all the different formats that you can get your film out there. Whereas obviously back in the day, it was just the big companies that
advertise on buses or advertise on...
Whereas you sort of, the world's your oyster now. You can do whatever you want, and especially if you've got a good team behind it who have the knowledge and sort of know how to push it and where to push it, that just makes it... Being that you've got to the end of third year now and we're about to graduate, do you have any sort of plans other than Studio 3 of what you want to do next?
Beyond Studio 3, not an awful lot. I'm going for some work experience at some point. I think I believe in just kind of media marketing, just to see if it's what I want to do, see if it's where I want to take it. I think I've got a bit of experience with editing as well, so maybe see if that's, rather than first ADing, what I want to do. Other than that, I think stick with Studio 3, see where we can take it, see what we can do for films.
And one thing that I've asked the other guests as well, being that you're at the end of your time now, if you could go back and talk to your first year self who's just come into film school, what advice would you give?
Don't complicate the story, but put more ambition into the basic stuff. Because I think with it being new to everything, and you go into it and you want to do all the really, really expert and really, really technical stuff, you're trying to do things that you're not ready for. So you might try and do stuff that's experimental rather than just something that's a bit basic. You're not Steven Spielberg. You're not here trying to create something that's like, I mean, I think in first year, we tried to do like a shot with a car, and that involved like green screen. Like we weren't ready to do something like that. And I think stick to the basics and then be more ambitious about the basic stuff rather than putting loads of effort into a really, really convoluted story for a 5-minute film that's really, really technical.
I mean, I don't know if you were given the same advice as me by some of the lecturers, is don't try and squeeze a feature into a short.
I think, that's exactly the way I'd put it, to be honest,
There's nothing wrong, like you said, with the ambition, but we've all seen stories where it's just too much
it's too much.
Frame of...
Make something basic, because I think if you sort of just strip as much of the plot out as you can, just make it as rudimentary, as simple as possible, and then don't be afraid to copy as well, because I think a lot of it you try and do something that's new, but you're not really ready to do that. If you just take a scene from another film and take inspiration from that, think about what makes that scene sort of more striking, more sort of impressive, and then think, oh, I can do that as well. I just need to set that light up there. I need to make the sound design like that. Copy what's already been done and stop trying to be like experimental and try new things, because it's about learning the basics of the art before creating your own ways of doing it.
Yeah, I think is it Tarantino that says he just steals.
I think he's at a level where he can do
that.
He does things in his own way, which is...
I think that's the beauty of a medium like film, and I think what you said is really important, to find those inspirations. And if you've seen something done in another film, do it yourself, do it in your own film. We've all done it in all of our films. I think an easy one to talk about is probably camera work, is that you see a shot that you like, and you're like, I want to make that shot, I want to recreate that shot. Even like the way that someone says a line or anything, you can absolutely do that. And I think you're right, that definitely at this stage, whilst ambition is important, it's good to not overdo it, because then you end up stressing yourself, and there's nothing more disappointing than coming out of a project and being like, oh, it's not how I wanted it to be. Those sort of basics, and that it is important to build up that foundation from the bottom upwards. So I think that's a really great piece of advice. Theo, thank you for being here.
It's been really, really good to be on.